Hello everyone. This is a sort of test video, sort of, well, gameplay video. This is not going to be the game I'm going to be starting this channel off with. I'm not going to start with Arkham Knight. If anything, I'm going to be probably starting, with Arkham Asylum, but that's a totally different game. Earlier in the series, but, it's still totally different than this one. But the main reason why I'm going to do Arkham Knight here is, well, I want to make sort of like a tribute video to Adam West. I decided to load up a bunch of tracks here with the 1960s TV series Batmobile. Because, no, why the heck not? I'm probably not going to play all these. But, this is just for fun. Talk about my experiences and make a little tribute video because have a little bit of fun while we're at it. Not something sappy, not something dull, but something a little bit more fun spirited because that's how it was with Adam West's Batman. So let's go into the game. I fully realize that I still need work to do with my audio balances, but I'm very close. I still have a few tweaks to do. You'll probably hear the air conditioner in the back. I cannot do anything about that. I will probably be investing in some soundproofing later on, but it's not time for that yet. So, anyhow, I, decided to take this whole thing in the 1960s Batmobile, which was based off of a Lincoln car. Lincoln Futura, I think it's called. It was a concept car. It was never made, by the way. And they decided to take the design and the car itself and put it into the 1960s Batman series, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, my memories of Adam West are very, very fun-filled. I grew up watching the Adam West TV series. I wasn't around for the original run. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough. I remember watching reruns of the series back when it was on Fox 29. This was back in the 1980s, if you recall. If you lived in the Philadelphia area, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. And, it was a pretty big feature in our childhood. In the local area, and then for people around the world, they probably saw the series, in various forms and fashions throughout all across the world and all across the country. And, I remember watching it, remember enjoying it. Totally different era back then. The 1960s of Batman was, well, quite different than we know him today. Today we see a big, brooding guy, beats up criminals, have the Joker, rip off his own face because he can, because that's what the Joker does, apparently. And, all that fun stuff that Joker and Batman now does, with all the big, gruesome, ghastly violence they do in comic books these days. I never read one, but I'm fully aware of what they kind of done, especially with the new 52 and all that. But regardless, yeah, Batman today is definitely different than what it is back in the 60s. It's not like I'm gonna totally down the new Batman stuff, because, not all of it's bad. I'm aware of a couple good stories in the newer Batman series, so I'm not a prude or anything like that. But still, the 60s were a totally different time. You had dawn of counterculture, civil rights, women's lib, all that fun stuff. And, totally different era. So that's why if you go back in time and you watch the old Batman series, it's far more fun, far more lighthearted, far more, tongue-in-cheek than what you would expect today. And, that's perfectly fine. It exists in its own little world. And it's actually quite fun to watch every so often. You know, you don't have to like it. In fact, if you don't like the Adam West TV series, well, okay, that's fine on you, but whatever. You know, it's a different kind of deal back then. You know, the 60s Batman series was based mostly on the Silver Age of comic books. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it is a time and period where Silver Age was basically created after, well, the Golden Age of comic books. That's why they call it the Silver Age. And basically, what happened during the Silver Age was there was this thing where there was this therapist of some kind, and he deemed that comic books were the works of the devil, that comic books were, you know, tools of the devil, that they were influencing young kids to do rotten things, etc. Not much different than what they would claim that video games would do down the road, and the same thing with rock and roll as well. And he used to say that, you know, comic books were responsible for, you know, all the ills in our society, and it was a really ridiculous time. And, so, you know, it wasn't just Batman who experienced this. There were other things. There used to be a whole lot of horror-based comic books way back when. And even though horror has come back nowadays, it took a long, long time to recover from big purge in the 50s and early 40s, you know. And it was a pretty nasty period for comic book fans back in the late 40s and 50s and 60s. You know, it was, you know, if you had a monster comic book and stuff like that, your parents would take it out and set it on fire because they thought it was the devil's work. You know, all that stuff. But, you know, still comic books were popular enough to make into television series, and the Adam West TV series was the first attempt to make a live-action comic book TV series. You know, that was in full color. Granted, there was the George Reeves Superman series, but it wasn't always in color. It was in black and white and then became color. You also had other previous Batman serials before that. They were in black and white. But this was the first true attempt to actually make a full comic book series, because you really can't call the George Reeves Superman series comic-based, because they would often come up with their own stories, and the only thing that Superman, the George Reeves series, had in common was the fact it was called Superman. It had Lois Lane and Perry White and Jimmy Olsen in it. You know, it was superficially Superman. But Batman was actually more true to the comics. And that's both for good and bad. Because, you know, it had the silliness of the Silver Age of comic books in its roots. Actually, a good percentage of the storylines for the Adam West TV series were adapted, you know, from comic books. Same thing sort of happened with the Bruce Timm comic book adaptations into Batman the Animated Series. You know, with Kevin Conroy as Batman. But yeah, no, totally different time, you know. And I remember all the laughs, all the, you know, foibles of that time. You know, it made a very big dramatic impact on my life. It made me interested in superheroes in general, even though I still never read a comic book. Not a single one, except for maybe Watchmen. But still, it was very influential. You know, made me want to kind of be a superhero. Never quite achieved that accomplishment, but whatever. You know, I also recall Adam West's other roles. Most notably, there was a movie called Zombie Nightmare. And if you're a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000, you know exactly what that is about. It's about this lady who lost her son and gets her son resurrected by a voodoo priest. to take revenge on criminals, and Adam West is in it. Adam West also did various voice acting roles, including that on Family Guy, including that on Fairly Odd Parents, and most notably for me, his role on Batman the Animated Series as a has-been actor on his last legs, who played a character called the Grey Ghost, and he was encouraged by Batman to sort of like resurrect the whole thing. He played a character named Simon Trent in that, and that was a pretty cool role. It was basically reflecting on Adam West's, career, kind of being, typecast and put down. Although I will say that the one cool thing that happened with Adam West is that after a while, he did embrace it. He started, making fun of himself, self-deprecating himself, and he started embracing the fans and started embracing the fact that, yeah, his series wasn't exactly the best Batman series of all time, but, still, very, very fun, can't be taken seriously, and he made the best of a bad situation in the end. And, the fact that he, continued to do things up until the day he died was a very big feat. Certainly a man to be loved and respected. His family and friends surely miss him. And I'm sure, there's plenty of other people out there in the whole world who are gonna feel a little piece of themselves being torn apart by this. And, I'm one of them. A big part of my, childhood being taken away from me. And by the way, that sign was not very nice. It said die. Yeah, thank you, sign. Anyhow, yeah, I just wanted to have a nice, fun little drive through Batman Arkham Knight here, with the 1960s Batmobile. Sure, it hasn't been exactly perfect here, but, it's gonna happen. I'm just having fun. And that's the one thing I wanted to do, talk about, my experiences, and I used to love, Adam West when I was a kid. He was pretty much my Batman. Not Michael Keaton, not Kevin Conroy, not Ben Affleck or even Christian Bale. He was pretty much my Batman. Now, do I hate all the other Batman actors? No, I love Christian Bale. I even like George Clooney, for that matter, and Val Kilmer. All of them offered something into the role, whether if it was a good movie or not. They all did something for the character. Although, say, George Clooney was better at Bruce Wayne than he was at Batman, and Val Kilmer was better at Batman than he was at Bruce Wayne, if that makes any sense. If you had to ask me who did it right, it was between Val Kilmer, who did both the Bruce Wayne and the Batman pretty well. Christian Bale did both roles quite well. Kevin Conroy did it pretty well, and we kind of really screwed it up there, but we're going to try that again. Now let's try that again. I hit the cancel instead of restart there, but yeah, the only other actor who did the whole 360 degrees was also Adam West, ironically enough. But my love of Batman still goes today. I actually kind of like Ben Affleck as Batman. I didn't have a problem with him. Sure, was he the best? And his Batman was the most ideal? No, because he did go around killing people. But, considering he's meant to be a totally different Batman than the one we know, I kind of, compromised those two things. Totally different Batman, totally different, circumstances. So I'm not going to penalize Ben Affleck for Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. I also really like David Moyes, I think that's his name, who plays Bruce Wayne in Gotham, the newer TV series based on the Batman franchise, which is kind of like a prequel, almost. He seems to be pretty cool. Slowly but surely going into growing into the role. But, you know, he's meant to be a young teenager growing into who will become Batman, rather than a fully grown actor, you know, who was instructed, hey, you're going to be Batman, you know, so it's a totally different take. You know, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I do like the Gotham television series, even though it's deeply flawed and I flipped the Batmobile upside down. I'm probably gonna not make it. Thank you, game. Thank you for being distracted. Me. But yeah, I still love Batman overall these days. I mean, sure, there's a lot about the modern comic books that, even though I never fully read them, I still basically know what happened in them. And from what I know, it's not something I would particularly enjoy. The New 52 experience, I think, is an overall failure. If it's a way to get new people into your comic book franchise by killing all people and people having their faces ripped off, yeah, I don't think you get the point. You know, I understand you're trying to attract teenagers, but, you know, making, you know, Joker rip his face off and, you know, all that crazy crap they're having the comic book characters now do, it's just, you know, it's bull crap. The comic book code came into existence for a reason. You know, even though kids no longer read comic books and it's more adult focused, you know, still, you know, why should have a whole lot of gratuitous violence just because you can? It's not like I'm against it, but still, at the same time, makes me question the direction that the company goes in. DC these days just seems like, much like Marvel, both Marvel and DC share the exact same issues when it comes down to, you know, making things grim and gritty. You know, it's like the 90s all over again. You know, the dark age of comic books all over again. It's like they haven't learned. You know, it's okay to make things violent and dark. It's okay to make things, you know, gruesome. You know, that's fine, but, you know, there's times where you just have to question, you know, where their sanity is at. You know, and it does sort of make me long for a simpler time. And I think I finally beat it this time. So, yeah, not a great time there, but, you know, still beat it. Yeah, let's do one final try here. But yeah, so I can just finish off my thought on comic books today and comic books then. I do feel that simplicity needs to be put back into comic books. You know, nothing too childish, nothing too kid-like, but at the same time, though, there is a point where you say, yeah, things have kind of gone too far and it's time to really think about your decisions, you know, and how you're going to write a comic book story. And I did it again, by the way. I mean, am I a perfect writer myself? No, I've made numerous amount of mistakes. I have actually written things. Nothing professional, but I have written things, and, you know, I've done some pretty goofy things in my time, but, you know, nobody's perfect. You know, but there are times where I feel, you know, there's something to be missed about, you know, the Silver Age, you know, and the goofiness of Adam West and all that. So, that's basically what I feel. You know, if you like the new comic books, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to stop you. You know, I'm not saying that they are the hellspawn of Satan or anything like that. I'm not, you know, some idiot from the 50s. I just know what I like. And, you know, there's a room for comedy. There's room for seriousness. You know, there's nothing wrong. You know, if it's one thing, one direction or another is equally as bad. You go too goofy, and you wind up like the movie Batman and Robin. You know, wind up doing too serious, and you kind of wind up doing Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. And don't get me wrong, I do like those movies, both in their own unique little way. But they're not, you know, they're not good movies, I have to say. You know, even though I like those movies, they are certainly not, you know, architects of high quality, those movies. Yeah, but if you do one way or another and you look really stupid, you know, finding a balance in writing is hard to do, and I fully understand that, you know. I have to do things that you feel is right. But at the same time, though, going one way or another, you have to find that middle line and go for it. If anything, I think that the Batman franchise should be more, in general, more like Christian Bale movies. More like, that kind of deal. More grounded in reality, but at the same time, though, have a little bit of lightheartedness, which is why I like Gotham. Because Gotham has kind of become self-aware on how stupid it is at times. In fact, yeah, Gotham is one of my favorite things to watch because it's kind of become aware that, yeah, it's kind of goofed up and it's just having fun with itself sometimes. And when it does, you can tell a mile away that the cast and crew are just having a blast. Making fun of themselves and making fun of the story situations. It's kind of become like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Being self-aware, poking fun at yourself. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. And that's the spirit of Adam West. So, one more lap to go. Well, no, not one more lap to go, just done. Sorry, I miscounted my, lap there. I kind of lost track of time. So, anyhow, I do hope you enjoyed this video. I just wanted to, have some fun. And, that's the spirit. Time of reflection, and then, when I'm ready, Real Game Series shall come here soon. So, until then, I'll be seeing you around, and, yeah, rest in peace, Adam West.